Violence is not inherent to good storytelling. So this video is inspired by just a short little skit I made that I think I'll just show here. It's about 25 seconds. DM, before we get started, I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah?
I worked really hard on my character and I'm really attached to them. I was wondering if I could ask that they don't get perma-unalived. And
Just to let you know, this is supposed to be a pretty intense campaign.
stupid, it's too much to ask. I can just join a different campaign.
No, please stay. There's other consequences that can happen to your character. Just let me know if anything else is off limits and I'll make sure to write it down and tell the rest of the group.
Are you sure? This was just meant to be a sort of good vibes video to show how to be a welcoming and inclusive DM, and it met with maybe a not surprising amount of ire in the comments. It seems a lot of GMs out there, specifically in this case DMs for D&D, are against the idea of playing at a table where a player character is off limits as far as perma-killing. And I should note this is the topic of like perma-death in D&D because, you know, with revivification, things like that, short deaths with resurrection and revival usually don't bother people. Usually, they should always be talked about, but I digress. Concept of telling a story where people know that their main character isn't going to die seems to really throw people off. And it doesn't have to. It does not have to derail your story. It doesn't have to destroy the stakes that you want to set up. If you have a DM that's against this, they might give you the reason of the uncontrollable nature of the dice. They can say they won't try to kill your character, but if it happens, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can say that if they do this, then there's no consequences and no stakes, and what's to make the story interesting if your character doesn't have the threat of permanently dying looming over them. They might simply say that's not how the game works. Combat and mechanic is written into the game, and therefore you can't play it without the mechanic of permadeath. I hate to say this, but your DM is probably wrong. There are two topics I want to cover here. The first main one is that intensity, darkness, grittiness, angstiness, deep storytelling does not inherently come from death. Then secondly, at the end of the video, I'll talk about how we have an idea that grittiness makes a story better, and it doesn't. You can tell a soft story that is just as interesting, important, and creative as a dark, gritty, angsty one. Violence is not inherent to good storytelling. However, it is important to realize and admit we live in a violent world. We're surrounded by it at all times in the news, in the stories that we read. This is not a video about why fictional violence is bad. It's important to explore this topic in a safe-ish environment, hopefully, if your table's cool. It is a part of our world, and it is also a glorified part of our world. There is evil violence and there is good violence in many stories. The heroes perpetrate the good violence, the villains the evil violence, and they clash together in an epic battle, and that's how you win the day or lose it. Popping in here a day later because I forgot to actually finish this thought. D&D is built on that glorification of violence. And there are other TTRPGs out there, of course, and I highly recommend checking them out, that do not glorify violence so much, but it can be harder to find a group that wants to play a new TTRPG, maybe you like the D&D mechanics, etc. You can adapt the game to your own table. And I think it's very important to deconstruct this idea that violence is inherently fun and exciting. Anyways, a lot of Hollywood-style movies encourage this kind of storytelling. They make the battles epic. While we're watching Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli with their weapons in hand, we also watch Frodo and Sam walking through the dangerous woods and navigating just the weight of responsibility. Even if he lives, if he fails, the world is essentially going to end, and that stake is more than enough. Not to mention our good friend Gandalf, who does die and then comes back to life, sort of miraculously. You can do that in your D&D game. It's okay, especially when it means that something about them is going to be changed forever, that they're going to lose some essence of themselves in the coming back. There's still plenty of emotion, drama, and stake there. So, you have been asked not to kill off a PC, maybe multiple PCs. What do you do now? How do you keep the story going if they don't have the danger of their own death looming over them during this battle? Here's where you're in luck. If a player has asked this of you, most likely that means that they care. They are invested in this character, they are invested in this story, they want to see them grow and change and maybe persevere, maybe falter. They want to see them succeed and they want to see them fail. And then they want to see what happens to them after they fail. And that is where you, as the DM, get to let your creativity fly and come up with consequences that have greater repercussions on the story than if the character died. Does the PC have a goal or a purpose that's at stake? Do they have a relationship that's deeply important to them that could crumble with this loss? Do they have a powerful deity just waiting to swoop down and take them in their service if they falter? Do they have a world-ending or world-saving power that might be stripped of them if they fall? Do they have a memory or an ability that could be just removed from them and perhaps given to the villain if they end up having a moment of weakness or failure in battle? Could their friends be put in danger? Could their loved ones be put in danger? Could the city, the world be put in danger by a foolish Would this loss mean the end of a town, a country, the world as they know it? It can be so much more complex and powerful than simply life or death, and change the course of your story in ways that maybe you didn't even imagine yourself. They may come out of this surviving, but failing and failing again because of the roll of the dice, because of the decisions that they make. And though it will not destroy their body, as you have decided at the start of this campaign, it may still destroy their soul. Now, that being said, I've told you how you can still tell this deep, intense, gritty, dark, angsty story without having your PC die. But what if you still feel like you're a little too soft for that? What if you don't want to tell a dark, angsty story? Good news, you do not have to. Dark, intense, gritty stories are not inherently better or worse than soft, gentle, loving stories. There's this weird sort of pride that I've noticed from a lot of DMs that kind of reminds me of when you're in school and someone studies so hard that they stayed up 3 nights in a row, where they sort of brag about it. Like, yeah, look at me, I upset an entire table because I TPK'd their party and they ended up crying for the rest of the night. We had to cancel the session. Listen, sometimes crying is fun at the table, but not always. Sometimes seeing your table devastated is part of the experience and people like it. That's great. I mean, I personally do love emotional stories and have taken things a little too far for players before myself, because I enjoy really feeling this sort of gut-wrenching emotion that can come from a D&D game. But it is not the best or only way to tell a story. People are afraid to be vulnerable, understandably. People feel more embarrassed and more vulnerable by being soft. It's easier to just disconnect emotionally from your character and put them through the ringer and laugh at it than it is to admit that you really care that they flirt successfully with the baker over at the bakery because they really just want to settle down and have a happy life, and they've had this long year of adventuring and they really deserve a break, and you know, she really makes great bread and they'd be such a good match. That matters. Stories do not have to be about death or the personal fear that a character is experiencing about the danger of death to tell an interesting, fun, and deep story. A good example of this is one of my main inspirations, which would be Studio Ghibli movies in general. I'm a huge fan of Kiki's Delivery Service, Spirited Away, Totoro. In Totoro, there is a bit of fear, spoiler alert, around one of the main characters dying, but she is actually just fine. And she knows that she's just fine. It's a different character that is afraid for her that puts the tension in the story. We don't need to discuss Totoro any further unless you guys want me to talk about Ghibli movies for a while, which I'll stop right now before I begin. These are beloved movies. I mean, Spirited Away is on the list of best films of all time on like multiple websites. And it is not about Chihiro fighting a life or death situation. She might just be stuck serving the spirits forever and ever in this bathhouse, and that's more than enough for her. Kiki's Delivery Service is fully character-driven. It's about finding one's artistic inspirations. It's about finding one's way in the world. It's about growing up. You can tell a D&D story about these same exact topics. You do not have to have violence to make it good. For this, you will want, of course, the whole table to be buying into it, more so than just asking your character not to be killed off. You don't want to be telling a story where the DM is trying to have it be a zombie apocalypse and you're trying to tell a story about baking croissants at the bakery with your girlfriend. It may not work out. That is genre defying. So maybe you just have to find a new table. But Asking your character to survive in a zombie apocalypse is not genre defying. In the end, if the player is told, nope, they gotta go, that the DM isn't going to respect this request, if they think that their obsession with violence and killing off a character is more important than hanging out with you and seeing you have fun playing a game, then it's probably best that you do just step away from that table. It doesn't sound like that is the DM that you deserve to have. You deserve someone who respects your feelings about your character, your desire to see them through to the end of the campaign, your desire to see how they grow and change, develop through all of their successes and their failures, whether they be world-ending, dark, intense, or simple and small and mundane, just like real life with the beautiful, fantastical sheen of a D&D world. And if you're a DM who has some resistance to this idea of letting a character live, I encourage you to open your mind to the myriad of creative ways that you can include them in the story and make their experiences matter without killing them off. You might find that the story is going to go into amazing places that you never imagined. You may find that these consequences that you can think of in these intense moments where they're going to live beyond could be much more exciting than having the character die and create a new one. Also, this means if you have cool lore written for that character, if you have like some kind of backstory twist that hasn't come up yet, you're golden. They're still going to be there. And I encourage you to remember that this is about telling a story together with your friends and having a good time around the table. You do have control over what happens. In the end, though there are dice that roll to decide if there is a success or a failure, you truly get to control the course of this story. The world out there is dark and violent and frightening, and we have little control over what happens. So here in your little table, in this world that you have a hand in playing and changing and creating, let their character survive it. Let them see it through to the end. Let yourselves experience what it's like to live through the horrors. You may not come out of it feeling whole, but you'll come out of it alive. And is that not a more interesting story than any other you can tell?